It's Dr. Gilchrist finishing up our discussion of social psychology. Earlier in class today, we were talking about some of the different mechanisms by which we can develop compliance. And I'd strongly encourage you to take a look at these because I will be asking a short answer question on the test specifically about some of these techniques. So if you want to get somebody to do what you want them to do, as I mentioned in class, one of the best things you can do is start with a very unreasonable request. Start with something that most people would say no to right out the gate. So you start with a large request, and then when you actually pass them the real request after they've rejected the large request, follow up with a smaller request. Contrast between the unreasonable request and your real request will be so large that the actual request looks far more reasonable as a result. As I noted with Cialdini, when you ask people, will you take some delinquents to the zoo? Very few people want to do that. But if you start by saying, hey, do you want to take a bunch of delinquents to the and take care of them and do after school activities with them for several hours a day for several weeks, that's a lot to ask of somebody, and most people will turn that down. Follow that up with, well, you don't want to do that. Will you take them to the zoo for a couple of hours? And all of a sudden, you get a 50% compliance rate. So this works pretty well. Now, if you're like me, you like sales. So this is a case of what is called the that's not all technique. And certainly people like Billy Mays, this isn't actually Billy Mays, it's Billy Mays from an epic rap battle, were very much involved in this sort of technique. So they try to sell you something and they go, oh, wait, there's more here. So this is a case where somebody begins with an inflated request and then you offer a discount or you offer a bonus. Buy right now and we'll throw in this hair dryer for just an additional cost of $9.99 at a $59.99 value. The idea is that you either offer them a bonus or you tell them that it's been discounted in some way. So it reduces what originally would be an initially high value. Late night infomercials do this all the time. So what you're looking at here is a sale. You have cupcakes that are either being sold for 75 cents or you are told that they have been reduced 75 cents. You'll notice that when people see that cupcakes are on sale and they've been reduced um, to 75 cents, people are more likely to buy them. Now, let's be clear, you are not actually saving anything when you buy something on sale. But the fact that it is on sale makes you think you're getting a good deal when you're still out there spending money. And I think this is how stores like Kohl's tend to work. What they do is they show you what they were supposedly originally selling their product for, but then they give you this awesome sale. And it makes you feel like you're getting a really good deal. And because of that, you're going to be more likely to buy something just because it's on sale. One other technique that we can do is what is called lowballing. So this is a case where I secure your agreement or your commitment, and then I suddenly introduce hidden costs. So in this particular case, Cialdini had people either sign up for a psychology study, knowing that it was going to happen at 7 o'clock in the morning, or he had them sign up for a psychology study and he would tell them the time that they signed up later. Now, I know most students, if you tell them, hey, will you sign up for a psychology study at 7 o'clock in the morning? Most people are going to say no. But if you say you're going to sign up for a study and I don't tell you the time, and then I call you up later and I say, hey, do you want to take this study at 7 o'clock? Most people have already agreed to participate, and it's going to be really, really difficult for them to back out as a result. Once you've made that commitment, it's hard to back out of it. And that's in fact what Cialdini found. So people that are told 7 a.m. from the get-go, you only get about 30% of people wanting to do it. On the other hand, for people that are told 7 a.m. later, so get them to sign up and then tell them 7 a.m., most people are going to be reluctant to back out after saying they would do something. We don't like breaking our commitments like that. So lowballing is a way to get people to do what you want, and then you introduce those hidden costs later on. So make sure you understand foot in the door, door in the face, that's not all, and the lowballing technique. You might be asked something about them on your next test. So we've talked about compliance, we've talked about conformity, and now we have to talk about obedience. So this is a case where you're doing what somebody in authority tells you to. What would you do if you were asked to hurt somebody because an authority figure told you to? And this was something that was largely the concern of Stanley Milgram, who is pictured here. And Milgram had grown up and had been around during the time of World War II and had seen the horrors of the Holocaust. And he asked himself, why would people deliberately set out to harm another person? Is it because it's really tempting to think that people do these things because people are evil? But oftentimes, what we will find is that if an authority figure tells us to do something, we are going to be much more likely to do that because it absolves us of a sense of responsibility. We can push back if somebody tries to blame us for something horrific that we've done. We can fall back on the fact that we were just following orders. And this is where Milgram's obedience research comes into play. So, unfortunately, there's no audio that I'm allowed to play on video, so I can't really show you a clip. But I'm going to kind of explain how this experiment works pretty easily. So, I want you to imagine that you come in to take part in an experiment and there's somebody else that is there with you. So you've got these two participants, and an experimenter comes out in a white lab coat and says, hey, welcome to our study. We are looking at the effect of punishment and various types of learning techniques on memory performance. So I need one of you to be the teacher who's going to deliver lists of words to people, and I need somebody else to be the learner. They're going to learn these different word pairs. And the drawing is always rigged. This other person that has come in with you is a Confederate. They're basically an actor. And the experimenter makes you draw straws. But the drawing is rigged so that the real participant is always the teacher and the actor is always the learner. And so what they do is they set the learner up. Here's the actor that portrayed the learner. They set the learner up in a separate room. So you, as the teacher, will not be able to see this person. This person is not in your field of view. They're in another room. And at least from your perspective, they get the learner strapped up because what they're going to do is if the learner makes a mistake, he is going to be punished by an electrical shock. And so they basically set up the learner with these wires. And so every time that he makes a mistake, you're told that he will be shocked. Now, what you probably don't know is that this setup is a fake. Nobody is actually being shocked, but you, the participant, have been led to believe that this other participant will be shocked if they get something wrong. Um, so you go to the other room. The experimenter is located at his desk right here. You are in front of a shock machine. So your job is to read off pairs of words, and then the learner will give their response. If they're correct, nothing happens. But if they're incorrect, you have to turn a switch on this shock generator, as you can see right here. And with every mistake, you have to up the voltage 15 volts. So the first time they make a mistake, 15. The next time, it's going to be 30. The next time, 45. And so you can see that the shock level is listed in voltage. And additionally, you can see that there are different levels here. Slight, moderate, strong, very strong, intense, extreme intensity, danger severe, and the ever ominous triple X going all the way up to 450 volts. Now, this shock generator is not real. Nobody is actually being shocked. But the way that this setup works is that for every switch that you hit, there is a tape generator. So there's a tape being played. And so every time you flip the switch, you hear the learner yell, "Hey, I don't feel good. I'm not enjoying this. Please let me out of here." And so every time that you keep increasing the voltage, the learner in the other room will basically start to cry out and say, "I need help. I'm having problems with my heart." Now, he's not actually in pain. You're not actually shocking him. These are taped responses that are based on the little switches on the shock generator. But you, as teacher, do not know this. You think you are actually shocking somebody. And let's say you hear these cries and you start to become a bit worried. You're worried that you're actually hurting somebody. So you turn to look at the experimenter, and the experimenter says to you, "It's absolutely essential that you must continue." Until finally saying, "You have no choice. You must continue." And so you start to wonder, well, what do you do? And at some point, if you keep going in these shock levels, at some point, um, you don't hear any more cries or screams from the learner at this point. Some people thought they had actually killed the poor man. Um, and so the question becomes, if you had to figure out how many people went through the full set of shocks, most psychologists, when they were asked about this study, would say nobody would go all the way to 450 volts. That's what sick people do. That's what a sadist with psychological problems would do. But it turns out the majority of these subjects continue to the end. About 2/3 of all participants continued all the way to 450 volts. People did not start dropping out until the moderate level of shocks. So nobody delivered a shock. Um, Everybody started between 15 and 60. By the time we get to moderate, that's when we really start to see people dropping out. But the majority do continue to the end. So this is a case where ordinary people, as Milgram believed, who are generally very kind, very decent, and generally not hostile or aggressive, if you put them in a situation where they are being told by an authority figure to do something, one of the things that we're going to find is that most people will obey. So I know that it's really tempting to think, hey, I'd never do that. The truth of the matter is, yeah, you probably would. And I probably would too. And most other people probably would do this if we were in their shoes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. We have a few more slides to go, and I'll see you soon.